What's going on, everyone? I hope you are doing well. Welcome back to another Master Legend guide. Today we are going to be taking a look at the new and improved Rampart, and we will be breaking down all of her abilities, learning how to play her, showing off some in-game examples, and even ranking her in the meta of Apex Legends, and much, much more. You know what to do. Hit that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. As with all of our Master guides, check out my pinned comment down below for any and all changes to Rampart since the launch of this video. Legends almost never get major changes, and I would expect this guide to be relevant for quite some time. If it isn't, I will let you know down there. Let's begin by going over some of Rampart's abilities, which are pretty simple compared to some of the other legends in the game. Rampart's passive is called Modded Loader. This gives light machine guns a nice little buff when she is using them, of 25% reduction in reload speed for light machine guns, and 15% boost in the magazine size for them. Rampart's tactical ability is the Amped Cover. This is more or less a deployable wall that Rampart can place down to block incoming damage, while also allowing her to deal 20% more damage when you are shooting through the upper portion of that wall. She carries 3 charges of the tactical, which is nice for rapid deployment and posting up in areas, and she can have up to 5 of these walls down at the same time. If a 6th wall is placed, the first one will be removed. Wall charges take 3 seconds to activate and only have 45 health while you are activating them, which does mean that players need to take care when you are placing them to try not to have enemies shoot them or to place them in areas where enemies won't be able to see you. Once fully placed, the bottom portion of the wall has 400 total health and the top and portion of the wall has 175 health. Finally, for Rampart's ultimate, this is going to be a minigun, also known as Sheila, that she does get every 2 minutes. This is more or less a turret that Rampart can either place on the ground or now run around with in her hands. As soon as you activate it, you will have the option to use it in either mode. The turret does 14 damage to the body with a 2x headshot multiplier, which means it will do more than 2,000 total damage with an entire magazine just to the body. Sheila has a base magazine size of 150, and it will take 350 damage before it is destroyed. Similar to the amped walls, she can also pick up that turret if it has not been used, and if it hasn't taken any damage, she will gain 50% of that ultimate back. Rampart can also aim down sights by clicking or pressing your sprint button, and you can begin to spin up the turret by clicking your normal aim down sights button. While Sheila is in mobile mode, meaning you are running around with it in your hands, you can shoot some of the magazine, put the turret away, pull out your weapons, and then pull Sheila back out if you still have ammo, and keep on dishing out the damage. Once you do run out of ammo though, you have the option to either put it on the ground or just discard it. Finally, one of the biggest things to know about Sheila is the longer you hold down firing of Sheila, the more accurate it will become, which will matter a ton if you are shooting at anyone outside of the close to mid-range. If you are enjoying this video, or if you just want to support me, hit that like button, stop over to Twitch where I do stream, and I would love to chat anything and everything Apex Legends related with you. Let's now break down our how to use Rampart portion of the video. Starting with the passive, there really isn't anything extra to add here. Rampart absolutely benefits from LMGs, and you should be encouraged to use them for that faster reload and larger magazine size. That being said, you don't have to force yourself to use them, and you should still use the weapons that you want to use or the weapons that you can find. The only other thing to really mention about the passive is that it does make her ultimate turret have a bigger magazine size when she does activate it or reloads it. However, for that tactical ability, there are a ton of things we can look at. Let's start with a tip or two to get that barrier activated. Using the barriers in fights can be tough, as it is very easy for enemies to destroy them. The best way, in my opinion, to activate that barrier is going to be doing it before you are even in visual range of enemies. So if you can plan ahead, try to do so by setting it up earlier rather than later. However, if you are playing a bit more aggressive, my tip is to place down 2 barriers, one right in front of the other. This will let the first barrier kind of act as cover for the second one while it activates. If it does activate without taking any damage, and if you didn't know, you can just break that wall down and you will get your charge back. The second way to place another barrier involves using yourself as a distraction. Drop a barrier down and then move off to the side of it. This will force an enemy to choose between either shooting you or the barrier. If they shoot you, you can hop right back over to where the barrier is, and it will more than likely be activated by that time. Similarly, if an amped wall does get broken, just drop a new wall right behind it so that existing barrier acts as cover for the new one. I often see players putting new barriers right next to old ones, and in my opinion, this isn't really the best way to do it. So we did mention that you will get barrier charges back if they do not take damage. This is really great if you need to rapidly redeploy after setting up. Maybe you set up shop and you realize fighting is happening further away. Just take down your barriers so you can't set them up somewhere else that is a little bit closer to the action. I also encourage you to always take down your barriers after you are moving. This way, no enemies will have the chance to use those walls on you. If you are unaware, you cannot stack walls and shoot through multiple barriers to get a bigger damage boost. This just doesn't work. If you do this, all the walls further away than the closest one are going to be broken. Using the walls for boosting your outgoing damage is of course great, but honestly, the walls have a ton of other uses that you should be using them for as well. The first is going to be, of course, to be using the walls for general cover in very revealing areas. While the amped portion will get broken fairly easily, the bottom takes a bit more to break, and often players don't try to break that full wall. These can be used to heal up behind, protect from fire, and my personal favorite, reviving teammates. I try to always drop a wall right in front of a player as I am reviving them, and more times than not, it will help me get them up. It kind of reminds me of those old Lifeline revive shield days. Next, we are going to have the tip of using the walls to block doors. Rampart walls on doors can be incredibly infuriating and frustrating for players to break through, and this should be used to slow down an advancing opponent. Even if players try to break down a door and get in a room, they still either have to climb over the barrier revealing themselves, or they have to try to shoot through the amped wall, which means free shots for you from safety. This is really great just to lock down areas, and it's really helpful, especially in rank. Following this, you can also drop down barriers outside of buildings, actually locking enemies inside of a building. This has a few advantages. One, you can control their movements, and two, you are able to open that door and shoot through the amped walls right into them camping inside. Another thing that I like to do is to actually bring out Rampart's turret and shoot right through the door onto enemies, since Rampart's ultimate is capable of dealing out some serious damage, and if you didn't know, Rampart's ultimate will shred those doors down. In line with the door options for Rampart's barriers, the barriers are also really superb at covering zip lines in buildings or even sometimes open areas. Drop barriers in front of zip lines, and if an enemy wants to try and engage you, they have to climb over the barrier into your floor or your area. This again is really just all about making enemies be more revealed when they are trying to approach you and fight you. The amped walls, of course, will allow you to get different angles than most other legends in the game because you're going to have cover in open areas that are very unfamiliar to opponents. This can give Rampart an aggressive element with her walls that is extremely difficult to master in my opinion, but if you can get it down, it's very rewarding. Being aggressive with Rampart is really all about angles and knowing your limitations in fights. If you want to be more aggressive, it's kind of all about pushing an area, dropping a barrier with the intentions of getting pushed by an enemy, and then lacing them up with your increased damage from the amped wall while having extra cover, thus taking less damage. Of course, this is just a small idea of what you can do, but it's something I think really all Ramparts should learn how to do better to control engagements and just keep up with some of the movement legends out there. Really though, you'll want to be doing this in combination with a lot of the previous tips so you can better keep enemies trapped, keep your team covered, and maximize that outgoing damage. All that being said, be creative with Rampart's barriers and position them in unique spots to catch enemies off guard. You can actually activate and deactivate those barriers a lot faster than a lot of people expect. You can almost run right through the barriers while you are deactivating them, and this really just adds for a lot of surprise mechanics that you can get onto enemies without them expecting you coming right at them with those barriers. Of course, you can use the barriers to lock down positions of height or importance, such as buildings or areas where you know enemies have to rotate through. Also, don't be afraid to just drop a barrier just to get slightly out of reach areas. You can climb those walls and it will help you get to roofs that are slightly out of climbing range. So finally, let us talk about Rampart's turret, Sheila again. Sheila recently became mobile, which has increased its usefulness about tenfold. This is absolutely wild now. It absolutely just skyrocketed Rampart's usefulness in my opinion. When using Sheila in mobile mode, the big thing to remember is that spinning up time. Spinning up takes quite some time, and if you are not prepared, enemies are going to destroy you pretty easily since you will have limited mobility. This makes being aggressive with mobile Sheila slightly harder to do in my opinion. For me, it's kind of all about pushing into an area, spinning up, and then letting the enemy come to you so you are ready to fire Sheila. If you do run into an enemy and Sheila is not spinning up, it's just not going to work out that well, so be super careful, don't get caught off guard, and don't overextend yourself with the minigun in hand. When using Sheila in the mobile form, you only get one magazine, so you have to make it count. A great thing about Sheila though in this form is that you can put it away and still be able to use it as long as you do have ammo left. This is just crazy important, and in a lot of ways, I think you should be using Sheila as if it was just a third gun in your arsenal. Put it away, pop off some heals, pull back up, do some shots, switch to your other gun, do some shots, maybe move around a little bit faster, then pull it back out. Just keep all this in mind, you do not need to rip through the entire magazine in one go. Once you do run out of mobile Sheila ammo though, the great thing is that you can actually mount it again and continue to rain fire. Once you mount it, you actually don't even have to reload it, which is quite nice. This might be a glitch, but for now, it is nice to do it this way. This means with some careful planning, you could push in, wipe a squad with a mobile Sheila, and then put her on the ground and get ready to defend that area. I personally do not like using Sheila when she is mounted, but if you are going to use it, almost always try to have a barrier in front of Sheila or on the sides of the turret to give you some extra cover while using it. The only time you really don't have to barrier up Sheila when it is mounted is to third-party people, but all in all, I'm going to find that the mobile Sheila is way more useful than the stationary Sheila. So we just have a couple more tips with Rampart's abilities. For starters, the weaponry Rampart should consider is of course going to be light machine guns, and this is a great pickup. However, I will say pretty much any long to mid-range gun is going to be really great with those amped walls. Damage farming is quite powerful with Rampart, and that 20% outgoing damage boost from that amped wall shouldn't be underestimated. If you're unaware, this turns a normal 3200 damage game with any other legend into a 4K with Rampart. So definitely don't sleep on this. Try out guns like the G7, the longbow, the 3030, and use those amped walls to really farm up some high damage games. Third to this is going to be the general wall used to block high damage things such as grenades or ultimates. If you are in a corner, you can wall up and mostly be protected from grenades or even some ultimates out there. For me, Rampart really only has one major weakness, and this is going to be the immobility of her legend. Apex is a very mobile game, and I think Rampart users need to take extra care to not get bogged down in one area too long. Just be mindful of this and try to stretch your legs out with Rampart a little bit. A second weakness is going to be a singular legend, and this is actually going to be Fuse. Fuse's tactical is very deadly to the barriers, and it makes him quite a threat to Rampart. This is just something to be aware of. Those knuckle clusters against Rampart's barriers are absolutely no joke. Also, I will say placing walls is really a supplemental action to everything Rampart does. Walls should be boosting your skill, not a detriment. Shooting is still going to be more important, so always try to prioritize shooting over just placing a wall to get a little bit extra damage or to get some cover. You don't want to get caught out in the open trying to place walls when an enemy is just absolutely lasering you. Let's briefly talk about a few of the legend combos that you may want to give a try with Rampart. The first matchup is of course going to be none other than Octane. Octane will help immensely and give Rampart some mobility with that pad, and this pad paired up with Sheila can actually be quite fun, and it is something that you should try out. There's pretty much nothing more fun out there for Rampart than grabbing that Sheila and absolutely raining fire down on enemies while you are flying through the air. Second to this is going to be Revenant and Octane, of course. The Death Totem with a Rampart ultimate and the Octane pad can just be absurd. Everyone knows that by now. Revtane's in the game, and pretty much every legend is going to benefit from it. I also want to recommend both Horizon and Caustic with Rampart, as both of these legends have some ability to slow down enemies' movements. Horizon's Black Hole and Caustic's Gas can help make players less mobile, which means you can get some nice shots on them with that ultimate turret. Finally, I think Sierra or Bloodhound are going to be really good options to pair up with Rampart, so you can get those wall hacks and be better aware of enemies' locations. This will just help you make smart plays with Sheila and leave you less revealed, allowing you to spin up at the most opportune time since you can't see them through the walls. So is Rampart a good arena legend? The answer for me is absolutely yes. For me, Rampart is a top tier pick in arena for a few reasons. The barriers are great, getting cover can be tough in arena sometimes, and these barriers will allow you to really just open a lot more creative ways to play in the arena. The barriers can still do everything that we talked about previously, but I think they are just way more valuable in arena. Even before Rampart saw a buff to her ultimate, she was a top tier pick for me, and now she does have an ultimate that is quite good. I think it makes her even better. Definitely don't sleep on Rampart for arenas. Give her a try. For me, she's probably like a top 5 pick in arena. So why are you choosing Rampart over some of the other sweatier legends like Octane, Revenant, Wraith, Pathfinder? Well, the main reason for me is going to be her unique playstyle and that defensive and offensive type of nature that she has. She is pretty unique in this aspect, and she can really shine in pretty much all modes of Apex Legends right now. Want to post up? Use those barriers. Want to make a crazy offensive play? Use Sheila and let it rain. However, I will say Rampart really does require a lot more thinking when you are playing her, so you are using her effectively, which I think is very rewarding, but it does come with a lot of baggage, and it's very difficult to use Rampart effectively, in my opinion. So where does Rampart rank in the current meta of Apex Legends? For me, this is pretty tough to say. Rampart's turret is better than ever, and it can honestly be massively deadly. Her walls, though, on the other side, still take a little bit too long to activate for me. The passive benefits LMGs, which is absolutely crazy since LMGs are just so meta right now. So for me, Rampart absolutely has a solid 2/3 of her kit being useful, and that third part of the tactical ability, the walls, still being useful but not incredible. Like I was just saying, I do think Rampart requires players to do a lot to be effective with her compared to some of the other legends out there. For me, Rampart is going to be somewhere in the middle now. She used to be a bottom 3 or 4 legend for me, and now she's probably somewhere in the top 7 to top 10 area, which is a huge step up, you know, going from maybe rank 16 or 17 to a rank 7 or 8. That's a huge step forward for Rampart mains out there. Definitely learn Rampart and understand her kit so you can at least better counter a Rampart if you do come across them in the Outlands. That is enough of what I think of her, though. Let me know how you feel about Rampart in the comments down below. And if you ever have any questions on Apex Legends or are looking to party up with people, hop in our community Discord. We would love to have you. I wish you the best of luck on your journey to Master Rampart. We've done guides on all of the legends in Apex Legends. That playlist will also be down there. And until next time, I will see you live in Twitch streams. Peace out.